And Canada's military has flown over Gaza and dropped aid into the territory, where the Prime Minister is warning of a deteriorating humanitarian crisis. Mark Carney says that Canada is intensifying its efforts with international partners to develop a credible peace plan and will ensure aid moves forward. Foreign Affairs Minister Anita Anand says that she will remain in contact with her counterpart in Jordan to ensure Canadian aid reaches Palestinians. For more on this, our correspondent Wyatt Sharpe reports.
Canada is stepping forward with one of the most consequential foreign policy shifts in recent history, formally recognizing a Palestinian state and launching an independent military-led humanitarian airdrop into the Gaza Strip. Prime Minister Mark Carney confirmed the decision last week, calling it a necessary course correction in the face of what he described as a collapsing peace framework. Speaking in Ottawa, Carney said, quote, "The idea of a two-state solution is not just at risk, it is on the verge of disappearing entirely." Carney announced that Canada will formally recognize the state of Palestine during the upcoming United Nations General Assembly session in September. The move will place Canada among a growing list of countries, including France, Ireland, and several other Nordic nations that have recently backed Palestinian statehood as a means of restoring diplomatic pressure and humanitarian stability in the region. The announcement comes at a time of extreme crisis in Gaza. More than 30,000 civilians are confirmed dead, and tens of thousands more are either wounded or missing. The majority of Gaza's medical facilities have been destroyed or disabled. Water systems have collapsed, food shortages are widespread, and the United Nations warns that famine is imminent, especially in the north. Against this backdrop, Canada's response has gone from diplomatic to operational. For the first time, the Canadian Armed Forces completed an independent humanitarian airdrop into Gaza. A Royal Canadian Air Force C-130 Hercules aircraft dropped over 21,000 pounds of food, water, and medical supplies into the region, coordinating with international aid agencies on the ground. The mission was launched from Cyprus and deliberately designed to bypass traditional overland aid routes, many of which have been blocked, delayed, or destroyed in recent months. Government officials say this was the most direct and efficient way to deliver relief, and more airdrops are expected to follow. Foreign Affairs Minister Anita Anand said the decision to act unilaterally was not taken lightly. She noted that Canada had worked through diplomatic channels for months to open consistent ground access and secure Israeli cooperation for aid convoys. But with those routes still unreliable, Anand said the situation on the ground left Canada with no other option. This new phase in Canada's involvement is not just about humanitarian aid, but instead it's also about diplomatic realignment. Carney emphasized that Canada's recognition of Palestine is not a blanket endorsement of current leadership in the West Bank or Gaza. Instead, it will come with specific conditions meant to ensure that recognition leads to long-term governance reform and a credible pathway to peace. These conditions include reforms within the Palestinian Authority, including greater transparency and accountability, free and fair elections in 2026 with international observers, exclusion of Hamas from political participation, and a firm commitment to demilitarization backed by regional enforcement. Carney said these guardrails are designed to distinguish between recognition of Palestinian rights and legitimizing any group involved in ongoing violence. Critics of the plan argue that recognition under current circumstances risks inflaming tensions or undermining negotiations. Some Western diplomats have warned that moving forward unilaterally could lead to further diplomatic strain in the region. Others argue that airdrops, while well-intentioned, offer limited relief given the scale of the humanitarian collapse. Still, Canada is far from alone in its shift. At a recent United Nations-backed summit in New York, over 160 countries backed a draft resolution supporting a two-state framework. The UN Secretary-General praised Canada's actions as a, quote, bold and necessary step to reassert pressure on all parties to return to the negotiating table. In the days following the announcement, several European nations echoed Canada's language, framing Palestinian recognition not as a gift, but as a strategy to preserve hope for coexistence in the face of accelerating destruction. For now, the impact of Canada's decisions will be measured in two ways: in lives saved on the ground and in the diplomatic fallout that follows. Inside Gaza, humanitarian organizations are still operating in survival mode. Hospitals have no fuel, doctors are running out of surgical supplies, children are dying from dehydration and starvation. International NGOs estimate that more than half of Gaza's population has been displaced, many of them now in makeshift camps with no access access to sanitation or clean drinking water. While Canada's airdrop represents only a fraction of the aid needed, officials say it's an important first step, both symbolically and materially. It sends a message that the global community can no longer wait for political consensus to take life-saving action. For now, Wyatt, Sharpe, the News Forum.